Hello there, everybody. It's Mr. Morphetto, and today I thought maybe we'd talk about the villains from the last big saga in One Piece that we have all reviewed together. I'm talking about the CP9, or more properly known as Cipher Pol Number 7. This little organization that kind of was sprung on us quickly when you're reading the manga. These guys were like hidden on Water 7 for many years. Hidden on Water 7, working there as shipwrights. One of them was a bartender. One of them was a secretary for the shipwright guy, the governor, I think. I'm talking about CP9. I'm talking about Robluchi, Kaku, Bluno, Cauliflower, and then I also want to talk about the other members that we met over on Enies Lobby. Commodore, Bluno, Jabra, is it Fuckero? I don't know. I haven't got that one down just yet. But also, of course, their chief, Spandam, my most hated villain so far in One Piece. Not hated as I didn't like the character at all. I just hated him because he was beating up Nico Robin, who is such a nice person. And he was just such a dick. He was such a dick. He got Tom killed. He was a piece of shit. You know what? Maybe we'll just kick this off. Let's talk about Spandam. We first saw Spandam, I believe, in a little flashback about our boy Frankie's backstory. And he was a dick then. He's one of those people that works for the government that makes you go, oh, this is why pirates are loved by a lot of people in this world, this One Piece world. Because the Navy is corrupted, and Spandam is a fine example for it. Very corrupt. Willing to kill his own men if it would get him a leg up. I've worked with people like that. People who would throw you under the bus and walk over your dead body just to get to the top. And that's what Spandam is. His father, Spandine, was the guy who, killed was one of the reasons that Nico Robin's whole island was destroyed and everybody on it. And he's a piece of shit as well. But if it wasn't for him passing down his job to Spandam, I'm assuming Spandam didn't earn the position at all. He was just given this somehow, just because his dad was in it. Or maybe he was also part of the Navy. I don't know. Either way, we see the backstory of Tom. Spandam ruins everything for Frankie's childhood, basically. Well, I guess he had a good childhood, but his, later years. I didn't like him. He beat on Nico Robin when she was handcuffed with the sand prism stone handcuff things. And I feel he deserved to die in the Enies Lobby arc. I feel like Spandam did not deserve to live past that arc. I know Oda likes to keep these characters alive so he can use them later. Fingers crossed he doesn't come back. I mean, the last thing I remember seeing him in the manga is he got his back snapped, and possibly neck snapped by Nico Robin, and you could easily just say bye-bye, bud, after that one, because the dude's kind of dick, and he kind of deserves to die, and Nico Robin's probably killed up many people anyway. It's not I understand that they're the good guys, but, I mean, they don't all have to be pacifists. I mean, not pacifists, but they don't all have to have this code of, like, I'm not going to kill, but I'll beat them up until they're sorry. And I feel like Nico Robin's one of those people that wouldn't blink an eye for killing somebody in her way. Well, especially someone who beat the shit out of her while she was being submissive and when she was chained up and she had no power and whatnot. So, Spandam sucks. We all agree. Should have died in the arc. I'm assuming he's very injured and we will possibly see this piece of shit again. Or maybe his father's still alive. I'm not sure. I don't think he died. So he could still be out there as well. Maybe he'll be a big part of the future. That's just a guess. I mean, this dude seems like a dangerous man. I don't think he's going to go out that easily, sadly, even though I feel he deserved it. And I feel like he doesn't have much use left, this Spandam guy. I mean, other than coming back and being a little biatch, I really liked his sword. Funkfried was dope. It was like an elephant, a sword that can transform into an elephant because it was infused with the elephant fruit. Nuts. And it seemed like a nice sword. Like, it didn't seem like... It was just following orders for Spandam. And Frankie had to beat him up a little bit. You know, I think he hit Spandam with Funkfried. Can't remember completely. But either way, Funkfried... I think I mentioned this before. Either way, I'm mentioning it now. Funkfried should have became... Zoro's new sword. If you didn't know, Zoro loses one of his main 3 swords at the end of Enies Lobby. So wouldn't it have been nuts if Funkfried became his new 3rd sword, at least for a little while? Like, now he's got a sword that can turn into an elephant. Come on. I didn't think of it until later, like halfway through Thriller Bark arc that I'm currently reading right now. And I feel like it should have happened. Like, he lost one of his swords. He just happens to pick up the Funkfried sword and doesn't realize that it's devil fruit infused. I just think that'd be really interesting. I think it'd be cool to see him figure out how to use the elephant sword into some of his attacks. I mean, I think he would take this sword that Spandam was probably using incorrectly and make it badass. And maybe it'd be kind of cool. He'd be like, my Funkfried's my little pet now. I don't know. Even if he just transformed when he used it, which is what you would think, be fine with that too. But I think that it'd be kind of cool if Zoro had the Funkfried sword. He lost one of his main 3. He needs a 3rd. I'm sure he's going to get some new badass sword. Why not the elephant sword? It was just meant to be, if you ask me. Now that we're done talking about the douchebag Spandam, let's talk about the badass that is Kaku. Kaku, the guy who can turn into a giraffe, the guy who jumps off buildings, and which was the first big thing I remember about him is when he meets Luffy and Nami and Usopp, and he tells them, "Hey, I'll check out your ship." He seemed like a nice fella. My favorite part about Kaku was I liked his personality, but Luffy and Zoro, I think a couple other people mistaking him for Usopp. Zoro mistaking Kaku for Usopp when he was half asleep was hilarious. One of the funniest moments in the series so far. Kaku is my favorite member of CP9, and I don't know why exactly. I liked. He seemed like a nice guy. Out of all of them, he seemed like someone who could be redeemed. Like he was just doing this. This is his job. He's an assassin. It's his job. It's how he pays the bills. But he also seemed like he cared about Water 7. He cared about Polly. Like, I think, maybe I'm mistaken, but I think there was a part when they pinned down Polly or something, and he said something like, "Don't struggle," or "Why'd you get back up?" Something like that. Because, like, Polly kept fighting. Like, he didn't want to keep beating him up. And he's like, they've been working with the guy for 5 years, give or take. And they probably built fake friendships that they've been involved with for 5 years. And I feel like maybe Kaku is one of the few. Like, it would have been not, it wouldn't have blown me away if he showed back up on Water 7 wanting a job. And just be like, hey, being an assassin kind of sucks. Or I got fired. So, you think I can come work back here again? I like it here. I could have seen Kaku coming back to Water 7 and helping them all out. Even if they're like, alright, but you got to start back at the bottom. Minimum wage. You got to work at the shittiest, you got to work with the shittiest crew for a while. I could see that happening. But one of my favorite parts with Kaku, I think giraffes are cool. Even though they kept joking about how lame his transformation was, I think his giraffe transformation was pretty cool. He was able to take it in many ways. Like, he was able to put his neck into his body to make his arms longer. He was able to cut a building in half. I mean, the dude is pretty dope. Hands down, Kaku's my favorite member, and when he got his transformation, I think, honestly, he didn't even need the transformation. He was a swordsman who worked with 2 really cool double swords. Could you imagine if Kaku was he's like, nah, I don't need no devil fruit. Or he got a devil fruit that just enhanced his swordsman ability. I didn't mind the giraffe, though. But I mean, when he was running around kicking ass before he transformed, I thought he was even cooler than he was when he got the transformation. When he jumped off the building. He was a badass, long-nosed man. And they gave him a cool transformation, but I don't think he needed it. And I think we'll always remember him as the giraffe guy. But I remember him as a cool man who had respect for his opponents. And even after he lost to Zoro, he handed the key over and like, hey man, you won. Here's the damn key. You've earned my respect. And I think at the same time, Kaku earned Zoro's respect. I love that about Zoro's fights with these swordsmen. And I think this fight with Kaku might be my favorite Zoro fight thus far. Which is surprising because Zoro usually has the best battles. Let's talk about Fakuro or Chapapa. I like to call him Chapapa because he says that between each sentence. He's got a zipper for a mouth. And he confused me. I get it's a fun design, the zipper mouth. When I was reading it, I read it like this dude was like their senior. He seemed like, he kind of looked like he was older than everybody else. And then when Lucci and Kaku and Cauliflower and Bluno all showed back up on Eni's lobby, he was there and they all punched him and he told them their power levels. And I didn't understand. I still don't understand why he was the guy to tell them their power levels. He was much weaker than most of them, I think. And he didn't seem like he was their sensei. I don't know. It was weird that he was the measuring stick to punch him, and then he tells you how strong they are. I didn't really understand the Chapapa man. Was he originally the first member of CP9 that's currently, or at least the oldest member currently in CP9? Did he teach some of the members like Lucci, Kaku, Cauliflower, Bluno how to use the 6 paths, the 6 abilities? Shave and whatnot. I don't know. It seemed like they had a different relationship than later on. He kind of seemed. He was funny. I'll tell you that. The Chapapa man was a funny fella, and his fight with Frankie was pretty damn fun. And mostly on Frankie's side, but watching Chapapa being a punching bag for Frankie was highly entertaining. And you know what? When I first saw him, I thought, well, this guy's a one-note loser. When I won't remember this guy. And then after multiple Chapapas, I think I will always remember Zippermouth Fakuro. But this, I don't know how to say his damn name. If you could tell me how to say his name by breaking it down in the comments, please do that for me. Also, subscribe to the Mr. Morfetto page. I like this guy. He's not my favorite. He's not my top 3 members of CP9. Not even one of my favorite villains, technically. But he was a really good opponent for Frankie. And it really let Frankie show off all his moves that we've kind of seen throughout since we've met Frankie. But like in a cool way. Because, Frankie fought Luffy for a hot minute. And now this big fight, I think, really set Frankie up as one of the strongest, like maybe the 4th or 5th strongest member of the Straw Hats right now. Let's talk about Commodore, the very, God, I don't even know how to describe this guy. He's got the long hair, and he controls it kind of like an octopus. He can, and whatnot. He might have been one of my least favorite. He was kind of funny. He was a little over the top. Commodore. His fight. My favorite part about him was he was there when Chopper transformed and demolished him, and we got to see Monster Point. Chopper's crazy out of nowhere. I don't know. He literally just changed into a monster of a reindeer. It was kind of frightening. If you look at the panels of Monster Point Chopper, you get a little like, whoa, what happened here? Like his hooves turn into hands, and his face is blank. His eyes are just white, and he destroys everything in his path. But Commodore was funny. His hair technique, from what I got from it, he does not have a devil fruit ability like most of CP9, but he's got full control of his hair limbs, so he can use them like tentacles. And he was able to do like multiple finger pokes with his hair shaped like hands, and that was cool. But really, he was a good opponent for Chopper to decimate, and that's about it. I wouldn't care if he came back. I don't need to see this fella again. He lost. I wouldn't be surprised if he died during the when they Buster called the whole island with missiles and stuff. Like he might have got hit by one of those explosions. Who knows? Bluno, one of the first of the 4 members of CP9 we met. Bluno has the door fruit ability. He can turn anything into a door, even like from one room to another room. Like if through air, he can turn air into a door and like walk in like a weird door dimension, and then walk back out of another door somehow. It was really interesting. When I first saw him lean against a wall and turn it to a door shaped like his body, I thought, kind of a lame ability. But then when he used it in battle against Luffy and against Sanji on the Puffing Tom, I was like, oh shit, this ability's insane, because he can walk from one completely different space to another completely different space, pretty much like teleportation. And he was able to turn Luffy's face into a revolving door. What the fudge? And another thing we'll always remember about Bluno is the fact that Luffy used Gear 2 for the first time to whip his bootay. I liked Bluno. He seemed like the second nicest member of CP9. Like, this is just a job. And he just, hey, I'm an assassin. This is what I do. I liked Bluno. It was interesting they let Luffy beat his ass and Lucci's ass. They could have allowed somebody. I don't know who. Everybody really got a cool fight, so I'm fine with him being a stepping stone for our boy Luffy. Okay, we're narrowing this down. I'm going to talk about the character from CP9 that let me down, and that's Cauliflower. I thought Cauliflower was going to be this badass chick, one of the strongest female characters we've met so far. And she was. When we first met her during when they were going to kill Iceberg, Cauliflower was running around in a disguise with a thorn whip looking thing, a spiked whip, and she was kicking ass, taking names, and later on she was kicking the Square Sisters' asses, and she was calm, cool, collected sometimes. Sometimes she went a little crazy as a secretary, but when she was in assassin mode, she was unstoppable. It was insane. I think that Cauliflower deserved more because after Water 7, when they moved to Eni's Lobby and she got her new soap fruit ability, she kind of got nerfed because she did not take Nami seriously. She mopped the floor literally with our boy Sanji, but only because he does not hurt women. So we got to learn, we got to see him in action, letting himself get his ass beat because he won't hurt a girl, which is very noble. But her fight with Nami was just a bunch of fan service for the most part. It was cool seeing Nami use her weapon to its fullest ability. That weapon still, to me, I guess it makes sense with the dials now and whatnot. It's been jacked up to 11, but I don't think it should be enough to take out a master assassin like Cauliflower. Someone who could probably hold her own with, literally hold her own with somebody like Zoro and Sanji. I'm not saying she would beat them. Maybe. She's got the 6 abilities. And yet, with Nami, someone who is basically just a little stronger than a regular human, but very smart and good with weather and whatnot, was able to beat her because Cauliflower wasn't taking her seriously and she was just soaping her up. I guess you could chop it up to Cauliflower practicing her new soap abilities, but it was kind of lame. And I know Chopper showed up and kind of helped her out a little bit, but I mean, Nami beat Cauliflower hands down, and I think maybe if it was Nami and Sniper King versus her, I could see them finding a way to win, or Nami and somebody else as a duo. I guess the only thing you could think of is Cauliflower just didn't take her seriously, and she was still new to her soap fruit abilities, which really didn't make a lot of sense. How can you clean somebody to the point where they can't get back up again? I mean, it's really weird. It kind of reminds me of the smooth fruit thing that Alvida had, because she made them so clean and smooth that they couldn't stand up and they were weak. It was weird how her power worked. I mean, she turned into soap and sheep soap. I don't know. I was very disappointed. I feel like she could have easily been a cool fight, even if she was the first fight with Luffy instead of Bluno. That would have been sick. Even if she got her ass beat by Gear 2 Luffy, it would have been cool to see a girl hold her own with Luffy. And I feel like they wasted Cauliflower. She didn't even use her spiked whip thing against Nami or Sanji. She just soaped them up. Alright, that's Cauliflower. Let's talk about Jabra real quick. The wolf man, the wolf fruit. This guy was pretty cool. I liked him in the English dub. I'm pretty sure he was the same voice actor that plays Nappa in Dragon Ball. And I think that he was fun. He was very kind of one note as a villain. I'm a villain. Ha ha. You best run, you losers. I did like that he kept playing this game with Sanji and Zoro and Usopp and whatnot, where he'd pretend like he wasn't going to fight them and take the key. Actually, me and Nico Robin are brother and sister, and we've been separated for years. And I like that Sanji didn't believe him. I mean, honestly, if I was going to rank the fights, I'd say my favorite fight out of all the fights with the CP9 was Kaku versus Zoro. That shit was insane. But my second favorite might be Jabra versus Sanji. Maybe tied with Lucci and Luffy, which was off the chain, very good. But I really like Kaku versus Zoro. Maybe it'd go Kaku versus Zoro, Lucci versus Luffy, and then right there below it, on the line, Jabra versus Sanji. Sanji showing up to save Usopp from dying, and then telling him, hey man, I'm better at fighting than you. But you know what you're good at? You're good at shooting shit with that sniper thing, that slingshot. You get out there and you help Nico Robin while I kick this wolf's ass. We got to learn about Sanji's new Firefoot thing, which I still have questions about. The Firefoot technique thing, the devil foot thing where he lights his fucking foot on fire and he beats the shit out of Jabra with it. I was just confused to, like, why is his shoe not melted or damaged in any way, or his pant leg like completely burned off? Like when the fire foot went away, I was expecting the foot to just be there. Maybe even the foot having some like rug burn looking marks all over it, but no. But his shoe and his pant leg was intact. I am confused about that maneuver. I did like the fact that he took one of Jabra's claws to the chest, but deflected the other, and then used the fire foot technique to take his ass down. I don't know. It was a cool fight. Jabra versus Sanji. I was really worried that Sanji, one of my favorite characters in this series, wasn't going to get a badass fight with a member of CP9 because his fight with Wanzi, maybe because he got his ass beat by Cauliflower. And I thought maybe they just weren't going to let Sanji be a badass, but nope. He showed up, lit his cigarette, lit his foot on freaking fire, didn't damage any of his clothes or shoes, and beat the crap out of Jabra. And I really liked Jabra's back and forth with Kaku as well. I think they were funny. Like, who is your stupid transformation? Your stupid giraffe transformation. It's just so funny. That was pretty funny. Him making fun of Kaku's transformation was funny. Jabra is someone I could see coming back down the line for sure. Another thing before I stop talking about Jabra or Kaku, one of my favorite parts of this was Zoro talking to Usopp about wanting to cut one of their arms off and then running to Chopper to get it sewn back on so that someone could go... so that one of the other two could fight Jabra and Kaku. I just thought that was funny. And finally, let's talk about Robluchi. You know, this guy, he threw me off first time I met him. I'm sure he threw most of you guys off the first time you met him in the Water 7 arc, when he basically showed up and beat up Polly, or him and Polly got in a little tiff. And he also showed off that he only talks through this little bird, a little pigeon on his shoulder. I didn't expect him to be a villain. And to be honest, I didn't expect the whole CP9 to be the villains of the story. It was rather shocking. And this dude not only turned out to be a villain, he turned out to be the leader. Not necessarily. I mean, he is the leader of the CP9 assassins, but Spandam was technically the leader, quote unquote, of this group. But it felt, Lucci was the big boss, the final boss that Luffy had to overcome at the end of Enies Lobby. And his fight with Luffy, has to be one of Luffy's best fights to date, at least at this point in the story. I would have to say I prefer Luffy versus Usopp, maybe just because of their bond, and just watching Usopp hold his own against Luffy was insanely surprising, and how much fun it was to watch him actually not get beaten in one punch. I guess he did technically get beaten in one punch, but it took a while. He was able to hold Luffy off for a while, even though I'm sure Luffy didn't want to hurt his old crewmate at the time. But his fight with Lucci was the most entertaining, and it's the most we've seen Luffy pushed to have to evolve his fight style. Like, he had to develop Gear 2 and Gear 3 just to keep up with Robluchi, and even that really wasn't enough. It took that plus the power of friendship to win the day, and that's insane. Because before that, Luffy came up with different tactics, like with his fight with Crocodile, when he had to, he figured out that water was the way he had to get himself wet, moist, to fight Crocodile, and he figured that out. That was kind of the weakness there, whereas Robluchi didn't really have a weakness to an element like that. His weakness was just basically hit him harder, move faster. I mean, Luffy had to mimic some of the CP9's maneuvers, like the shave technique and whatnot, but he had to push his body to the very limits. And even Robluchi said a few times to Luffy, and I think Bluno might have mentioned this as well, like, you're pushing your body so hard right now that if you weren't made of rubber, your heart could explode. And that's really cool, and I think very interesting. And I'm also interested in knowing, because like the CP9 have the ability to move fast, and the iron body technique is interesting as well, because their bodies aren't made of rubber, and yet they can reach these speeds of movement and and strength and the iron body gimmick that they do. And I'm wondering, like, how do they make that happen without, damaging their heart? Because they kept mentioning that the more Luffy uses Gear 2 and 3, it's slowly going to be damaging to him down the line. And I know there's still plenty of One Piece to go, so I wonder if down the line he's going to start feeling the effects of using this too much, or maybe he's only going to use these abilities like Gear 2 and 3 when he has to deal with CP9 level threats. But I have a feeling, if this is like any other shonen anime, we're going to get a lot more villains that are at the level of the CP9 or higher down the line. So, because I feel like Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, the whole crew really have leveled up. And they now have seen what the human body can do with the 6 techniques that the CP9 use. And it's given them a perspective on themselves. Like look at Sanji's fiery demon kick thing that he came up with. He's never used it before since we've met him, so I'm assuming he came up with it on the spot, or he's been saving it, or is there some kind of, is there some reason why he wouldn't have used it earlier on, like when they were taking on Arlong's crew, or even when he went head to head with Mr. 2, and it was, maybe he just didn't feel like he needed to use it. My assumption is it doesn't feel good to light your foot on fire. I assume he just came up with it on the spot, and he leveled up and earned a new technique, like a video game. But either way, Robluchi pushed Luffy to the absolute limits. And I can appreciate that, because now we have a Luffy with not necessarily transformations, but new ways of using his gum fruit abilities to enhance his physical abilities, which is pretty cool. And it didn't feel like an ass pull of a technique. It felt like that he could actually do these things, but he never thought to do them before because he didn't need to, because his opponents weren't that fast or that strong, or he didn't need to hit them that hard. And Robluchi was feared by all the Marines that showed up for the Buster Call as well. I am curious at what level this dude is at. Compared to other villains we've met, is there any other villain before Robluchi that comes even close? Like, could Crocodile hold his own with Crocodile's got his own bag of tricks with his sand technique, but if Luffy could beat him just by getting himself a little moist, I feel that Robluchi could do it even faster, because he's so quick and already so strong thanks to his CP9 abilities, the 6 abilities or whatever you want to call them. And his devil fruit transformation, the leopard fruit thing, which was interesting. I feel like Kaku's transformation and Jabra's transformation really kind of made Rob's transformation not as impactful visually, because once you see the giraffe and the wolf, and then you get to, and the same arc you see Monster Point, you're like, well, this giant kitty cat isn't as scary as it was the first time we saw it in Water 7. And in Enies Lobby, it felt like every villain had a animal type transformation. So I guess it is good that Cauliflower didn't get a animal type transformation, but I almost would have preferred if at least she was a part of that little crew. Like if she got like a shark fruit transformation or another mammal. Just so it felt like it wasn't such a, the bubble fruit really felt like a fan servicey devil fruit ability that when she fought Nami, it just felt very fan servicey. It didn't service her as a great assassin like it did for Kaku, who got his long neck, who he was able to use, since he was able to use his neck and the rest of his limbs after his transformation to literally cut a building in half. I mean, I don't know how you laugh at a giraffe that can cut a building in half. I just cannot. So that's pretty much it. There's a few minor members of CP9 or people who are trying to join CP9. I don't think Wanzi was a member of CP9. He was just, I think he said something about being a member of like CP6 or 5 or something weird. And then there was another dude that was trying to join CP9 that fought Frankie on the Puffing Tom, who was easily defeated, who don't really need to talk about. But I enjoyed the CP9. Hands down, one of the best villain groups I've seen in anime. I would have to say, I love One Piece a lot, and it's such a fun ride. And I'm also a big fan of Naruto and Dragon Ball and so on. And if you were going to take those anime and compare their groups of villains, so let's take Dragon Ball for instance. You have the Ginyu Force. I'm a huge fan of the Ginyu Force, and I have a lot of nostalgia for them. So that they might, in my mind, stand superior to the CP9 as a group of villains from an anime or manga that I will remember for the rest of my life. I'm going to remember the CP9 for sure, but I feel like if I was going to rank them, I would put the Ginyu Force above the CP9 as characters that I liked more. But it is something that I have nostalgia for as being a kid who watched it growing up, and then growing up as an adult and watching it again and appreciating it for different reasons. Another comparable group that I feel stands above all in anime, for me personally, it would be the Akatsuki from Naruto. And I think that even if you're not a big fan of Naruto, you have heard of the Akatsuki, or if you've seen the red cloud robes. The design alone of the Akatsuki is just badass incarnate. And I would say that the CP9 were damn close to being somewhat of an Akatsuki level threat, but the Akatsuki were like end game level threat in the Naruto verse. Like, they weren't the last, they technically weren't the final villain, but they were kind of treated like they were going to be the final set of villains until, of course, Madara showed up and Obito was revealed as one of the guys pulling the strings of the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki were dope, and I think they were one of my favorite parts of Naruto Shippuden. And what was cool is each member had their own set of abilities that made them stand apart, and they were all from different villages. Whereas CP9, a lot of them, aside from their Devil Fruit abilities, had the same techniques. The shave technique, the iron body, the finger pistol. You got a lot of the same stuff. Whereas you take the Akatsuki, which I would have to rank as my favorite villain group from an anime. They all had unique sets of abilities. Like, Hidan had the ability to... he couldn't die. He just could not die, and he could also trap his opponent so that he became basically a living voodoo doll where he could stab himself and it would hurt his opponent. That's just an example. Itachi was all about the visual imaging jutsus with his Sharingan. He could manipulate people with those. And he also had fire style techniques as well. He had really good hand-to-hand combat. Water style techniques would go to Kisame. Kakazu had 4 different hearts inside of his body that he could separate and have multiple techniques that he could use all the elements. I mean, if you've never watched Naruto, this probably sounds like a bunch of gibberish to you. And Pain, of course, had the 6 paths of pain, and so on and so on. Conan, the female from that group, had the paper-style jutsu that was very unique to her. It felt like each one of them had their own unique story to them, whereas CP9 felt like a group of assassins that had different personalities, but they all, except for their Devil Fruits, fought similarly. They had the same style of fighting because they've trained in the same paths. And I mean, Bluno's Door Fruit made him stand apart, and Cauliflower's Bubble Fruit, her Soap Fruit, made her stand apart, but it was just very fan-servicey for me, very tongue-in-cheek. I think that the Giraffe Fruit was so unexpected that it made it stand out to me. But I preferred just his hand-to-hand sword-style combat watching, honestly, and it really just came down to him using Iron Body with his nose and whatnot, and his nose pistol, and then his sword-style technique against Zoro. And I think that when he was just clashing blades with Zoro, I had the most fun in that fight. And Robluchi kind of had the same style of fighting as Jabra, because they did the multiple claw thing where they would do like 10 finger pistols all at once. So it didn't feel like they all stood apart enough for me to make them my favorite anime villain group of all time. But they are definitely up there as one of my favorite villains in One Piece so far. And I know there's many, many more to come. But I would have to say, to end this video, I'm Mr. Morfetto. Please subscribe. But I would have to say, my favorite villain in One Piece so far, reigning supreme, still to this day, and maybe because it's the arc that really cemented One Piece in my brain as a legendary anime, and it was so early on, was Arlong and his gang. I think that they were more fun. I know they weren't... I think they did kind of stand out a little bit more individually, but Arlong in particular is my favorite villain so far in One Piece, and I still am holding out hope, fingers crossed, that he eventually will come back and have his own little mini story arc. Like a lot of the other villains have showed up again, like in the cover stories. It would be nice to learn more about Arlong, what made him such a dick. I know he was... I don't know. It feels like he had a lot of issues, but I feel like it's stemming from something else that happened as a child. He's a fishman in a human world. Maybe he just feels feelings. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not a great writer. I don't expect to be, but I do really like Arlong, and I think I like him more than Robluchi. He's not as strong as Robluchi, no way. But as a character, I really liked him, and it really gave us a big, amazing backstory with Nami and the fight at Arlong Park with him and his gang. I think that his gang really stood apart. And they all had their own gimmicks, as it were, and I really appreciated that. I would say that Robluchi versus Luffy was a better fight than Luffy versus Arlong, but man, after the fight with Arlong, it made me want to see Arlong go one-on-one with Zoro, if Zoro was healthy at the time, just to see what power did Arlong have, because it was so ambiguous, and the way that Luffy won was with his gum gavel thing with his giant foot in the air, and it just kind of felt like out of nowhere, and Luffy broke his sword and everything. It was pretty wild, and it left a lot of open questions of what's going on here. But this isn't about Arlong. I just really like the guy, and I'm just telling you right here, right now, that I think that Arlong was a better villain than Robluchi, but I think Robluchi's right underneath him as my second favorite villain, and the CP9 as a whole was pretty badass, and they really helped make Enies Lobby and Water 7 a memorable saga. And I guess I'll talk to you guys later.